Good morning, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and hear as we're going to talk about the top 5 event marketing trends that we're seeing for 2024. For those of you I haven't had a chance to meet, I am Julie Flynn. I'm the Director of Sales for North America for AMXGBT Meetings and Events. I see some nice familiar faces, but really great to get the chance to meet all of you. Before we get started, it's really important that this content is relevant for everyone, that I can provide examples, past history, anything that will help you guys move forward into this year and next. So if you will indulge me in sort of an informal hand-raising poll, I just want to understand a little bit more about roles and responsibilities within the audience. So if you are on the Cvent or technology side, if you could please raise your hand. Okay, good part. If you are on the third-party side, so agency, hotel, DMC, ground transportation, please raise your hand. Awesome. And then do we have any meeting planners or anyone who's actually responsible for their meetings and events within a corporate organization? Awesome. You guys are the largest group. That's great. So what I wanted to start out today is just give you guys a little bit of context of where this research came from. So as a global organization, we do put out an annual global meetings forecast, but we thought that it would be really relevant to do something more specific to our marketing events and to our marketing stakeholders. So within our organization, we have a couple of different sort of product lines, if you will. One is called the Experience Studio, and this is an area of the organization that focuses on these events that are very high engagement, high value, marketing led. So we felt that this was the best part of our business to house these trends and to do this research because these are the stakeholders that we're working with and helping them to implement for their meetings and events. So before we dive into marketing stakeholders and marketing events specifically, to take a step back, it's really important to understand who are the key stakeholders in meetings and events overall. Some of you might see your own roles up here, or you might, I always get a little bit of a giggle when I look at, procurement and legal and all those fun parts that help us create our meetings and events, but are in different parts of the process that are there. So for us, it's really important just to understand how all of these roles intersect because it helps us look at meetings and events holistically, both on a strategic level and on more of an event-by-event level. Today, we are just going to focus on marketing and communication stakeholders, though. So within the Experience Studio team, we did a survey of over 300 leaders within this part. So these are your marketing and event stakeholders and meeting and event owners. And what we're hoping to do for you today is to go through the top 5 trends that we're seeing for 2024, help to demystify some of the motivations, some of the sort of things that are top of mind for them that are driving meeting and event decisions and are driving that further collaboration of how we bring these people together in often live now, but also virtual and hybrid settings. So the top 5 trends that we're going to go through are here. We're going to dig into each of these a bit more in depth, but starting out with engagement. Engagement is the number one reason why we come together, right? We want to have engagement from our audiences. We want to have engagements together with our brands. It's driven through content. It's enabled through technology. But what's really, really pivotal to keep top of mind is that sustainability and inclusivity is driving a lot of creativity behind this. And looking at strengthened partnerships brings this all together. So not just your agencies, your AV partners, your DMCs, your ground transportation, your gifting, your hotels. It is a collective arrangement to bring these meetings and events together in an impactful way. So let's start with engagement. So attention is the new currency, right? Keeping people engaged, keeping them, focused. So it's really smart to invest in this to gain a competitive advantage. I will say, when you have a target audience that is an end consumer, you have internal partners, you have business partners, you have media and influencers, the key is to keep them engaged. And to keep them engaged, you have to understand them. You have to understand why they are attending an event. What do they want to get out of it? Have they gone there before? Have they met people there before? There's a lot that goes behind understanding your audience to know how to keep them engaged. Ultimately, when we talk to our marketing leaders, and if you're like me, if you looked at this, it doesn't add up to 100%. It was multiple choice. That was the first thing I noticed. But we had them talk to us about who their audiences are. And what strikes me here is while we have end consumers, which are really important, right? They need to know your brand. It drives revenue. It drives awareness. We have internal teams and business partners. So thinking about your product leaders, your sales leaders, your HR business leaders. We also have media and influencers. What's key here is that one event can have all of this mix. And that's what we're seeing is really, top of mind and can be a challenge sometimes, is how do we engage an audience that is diverse, an audience that has different objectives, different personas. Even as of late, I was at a BTN Summit in New York last week, and we talked about multi-generational audiences as a piece of this. And how do we make sure that we're engaging with each of them and not just doing it in one straight way? So looking through where this falls within the marketing budget. So of an annual marketing budget, on average, we see 14% goes to events. I think it was 80% that Reggie talked about yesterday in his general session, that 80% of marketing managers have events as a part of their marketing plan. That's huge, right? Having people together is a very impactful way from a marketing perspective. When we look at the top events that they have within that budget, and again, multiple choice, so they could have multiple of these in there, product launches makes a lot of sense. Internal meetings, again, connecting your people back to your brand. Customer and client advisory boards, having an opportunity to hear feedback and concerns to better develop product, to better position yourselves in the marketplace. And then incentives and special events. Again, this really goes back to tying in your internal people back to your brand. When we look at marketing professionals and we look at these types of events, one thing is clear is that based upon the event, there's going to be a different level of investment. So when we look at product launches versus internal meetings, there's going to be likely a higher investment on product launches and a more moderate on internal meetings. But I want to be really, really encouraging that that doesn't mean that your engagement has to reduce when your budget is lower. You can still do creative venues and destinations. You can still do surprising moments and personalized connections. And what I would say for anyone in the audience here, actually anyone, but if you are on the supplier side, be really, really proactive with this. Be really direct with your clients and RFPs and your agency partners of, this is what makes this unique. This is what you can do with your people. If you are on the client side, ask that very directly. What is unique about your property? What is unique about your destination? Tell me something that someone has done lately that you hadn't seen before. And rely on that consultation to be able to target these areas. It's a really big piece in this industry. For those of us that are on the supplier side, we see thousands and thousands and thousands of events every year. Rely on us to give you that consultation to bring in some new ideas, and it doesn't have to break the bank. I'll talk a little bit more about a couple of examples of how we've used technology for that, but I always want to be really direct on that, is be bold and just say, hey, this is what I need, or this is what we have to offer. So engagement is one thing, but we have to do it through content. And I'm sure for anyone who's from a client side, and especially within marketing, you have an idea of what you want people to see and hear. You have an idea of how you want them to feel. There's a lot of digital noise out there coming from all corners, right? Audiences are overwhelmed, they're distracted, they're multitasking. There's a few people that are multitasking right now, and I will not judge because I am a huge multitasker. It's how the world goes round. But when it comes to marketing stakeholders, they want their event to stand out. They want it to be tailored messaging that is really relevant to their audience. They look at tools like technology, which we'll dig into a little bit more, to help enable this. When we talk to these marketing leaders, content was number one priority, which should not be so surprising, right? We all see that, we all experience that. Number two, which was actually only 1% less at 20%, was use of technology. Number three was improved on-site experience. And when I think about these three things, they are symbiotic, they're connected, right? To get better content, to deliver better content, we have to use technology. We use technology to personalize messaging. We use technology to put things on screens. That improves the on-site experience. So when we look at this, it's not just one of these pieces, it's how they all connect together to deliver that experience and deliver that content. So overall, the consistent message is we can't have ordinary content, right? It needs to be something that goes above and beyond. One of the areas that we're seeing becoming more and more popular is user-generated content. Talking to your people before they arrive, asking them what their purpose of attending is, asking them how they want to feel after, asking them what they want to do while they're there, what's important to them. Are they there to network? Are they there simply to learn? Are they there because, hell, they want a free vacation and it's somewhere nice? You don't know, right? And I mean, we laugh because, of course, right? You're more likely to go to a destination that was top of your list. Why not? But it's important for us to know that because we want to have a narrative that resonates with our audience. We want to be thoughtful and really focused on that because it helps us to make better speaker selections, better keynote selections, better communications for our audiences. And ultimately, it's going to have a better connection. You're going to have increased engagement, and you're going to make a more lasting impression. I have a couple of examples of this, of how we've used technology, but I do want to wait till we get to the technology piece because I think it works really well into registration and mobile apps, how you can apply this to technology you guys are likely already using without needing to invest more or heavily increase a budget. So talking about technology, I think we can all appreciate that we have to do more with less budget, less time, less people. It's something that we're going to continue to have to work through. But personalization through technology. And I love this topic because I feel like a year or two ago, we thought of technology as something that took away personalization. We thought of it as something that made it just cookie cutter and rinse and repeat and all that stuff. And it's not the case. I mean, AI still blows my mind. I honestly don't understand it. But I think it's absolutely incredible, and it's amazing what it can do for personalization. But you also think about technology and the use of that and how that can help to remove cumbersome tasks off your plate so that you can focus more on the personalization of that experience. When we looked at the marketing leaders specifically, these 6 came up most often in terms of how they are using AI and using technology to do more with less. I love the theme ideation, the event agenda and speaker bio as well, right? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but if I have to write a bio, it's probably going to be a lot worse than if AI does it for me. It'll probably be shorter as well. So it's just really interesting how we've seen such a shift as technology being, it can't be personal, to it's actually driving personalization when we talk to our marketing leaders. And then overall, the end goal when it comes to content is we want to have a lasting impression. Lasting impressions, they hinge on emotions and thoughts that it evokes, right? I think there's so many studies that are out there that talk about how you create a lasting memory by breaking the habit, by making everyone stand up and switch seats and then sit back down again. You're gonna be like that crazy lady from AMX Meetings and Events made us sit down, stand up and change seats, right? But there's other ways that we can do that in terms of making sure that we are embracing content, embracing technology to make a more lasting impression. The other piece is technology in terms of how it's delivered, which is really fun. You think about the Sphere in Vegas. Like, how cool would it be if we could do this at the Sphere in Vegas? And your mind is reset and your attention is reset. Or if I wasn't just using a traditional screen, but there was projection mapping that had this come out, or other different really interesting uses that we see. Different virtual reality and ways of using that in your event to take the storytelling a step further and get people really immersed in that content. Overall, it's just important that the narrative becomes part of the experience. The technology enables the delivery of it. So let's talk about technology. We're all here because we believe in technology, I hope, fingers crossed. But it's a really great way to develop meaningful content and to deliver meaningful content. It's a must in our world. It's everywhere. And I think when we lean into it and we really look at unique ways to apply it, it becomes really, really powerful. So overall, it's a way to streamline events. It's a way to increase creativity. And I want to give an example from registration websites. And Romina, you're going to get put on the spot because you and I were talking about this last night. But we use technology, registration websites and venue sourcing, right? Very, very common. There's a really great vendor that's doing custom hats in the Innovation Pavilion, right? And we were talking about it. We're like, oh, what a great way to have a gift. How amazing, right? Some people, it just ends there. We started talking. We're like, well, what if you had a group that had never met before, had never been together, and you knew that a lot of them were interested in networking. Let's say it's a customer advisory board, and they're gonna meet their peers, and they actually really wanna talk. Well, how do you do that in a group of 200 people? You have extroverts, you have introverts. You can't go around and introduce everyone to everyone. So we started thinking, well, during registration, don't you put your address? I live in Denver, Colorado. Romina lives outside of DC. Some people might be here in Texas, what if we took that and everybody got a custom hat with their state on it? Mine would be boring because Colorado's a square, but I thought about that. I was like, that's a really bad example. But I could do mountains, yeah, or I could do California where I grew up. I would see someone else with that and say, oh, hey, are you in Colorado? And now I have that natural connection. It's the same question you have in registration. It's creatively applied. You have a great gift for your attendees when they leave, and it creates that connection. So it's a nice way to look at technology in a different light. Again, it's something that you guys are already using. It's applied in a different way. We're just looking at it through a different lens, but at the focus of it is, what does your audience want? If they want to be connected, if they want to network, here's how we do it. So it's really, there's a lot of different other ways that you can use this. I know another piece that I'm hearing is T&E budgets are being tight, right? I mean, I feel like if anybody hasn't had a T&E budget that's lowered, please raise your hand and I will trade you spots and tell us all about it. But we're seeing virtual reality and virtual walkthroughs for site inspections, for venue reviews, and even bringing in your other stakeholders. Let's say if you're a marketing professional, you might have a head of sales who wants to know what's going on because you're bringing customers in. They want to know what the venue looks like. They can't go with you. So it's just different ways of even applying it to the planning process. And from a agency or a hotel perspective, how do you give people better access to your product? When we took a look at the 300 plus event professionals, this was the top technology they had as a part of their meetings and events. Again, multiple of these we know are on at any event. Not surprisingly, mobile apps are the highest, right? We have mobile apps for everything. I don't know the last time I've used a printed boarding pass, and if I ever lost my phone, it would be a really devastating day. But the other one that surprised me, and I don't know if anyone else would be surprised by this, is I was not expecting to see QR codes. It makes a lot of sense when I started to think about it. I am dying to get real menus back at a restaurant, right? Everything is QR codes in our personal lives, and it makes a lot of sense that this has now come into more of our professional lives as well. QR codes that I've seen around Connect, it's great because you get information right at your fingertips. You don't need to go digging through the app. It's right there for you. But what I think we're going to continue to see is things like facial recognition, AI, wearable tech, all those things that are becoming more prevalent in our personal lives. I think we're going to start to see an increase in how we're using them in meetings and events because it's what people do every day, it's what they expect, and they become accustomed to it. Again, the facial recognition, I feel like was something, what was it Minority Report? Yeah, thank you. Minority Report was weird, right? We saw that 20 years ago or something, and it seemed really odd. And I think even now, facial recognition for a lot of people can be a little concerning. But most airports now use facial recognition with your ID. You don't have a boarding pass or you don't have a pass to go through security. Your phone uses it every day. And I think that we're going to start to see the more comfortable we become in our personal lives with this, the more applicable it will be with meetings and events because people will be used to it and accustomed to it. But again, things like the virtual walkthroughs that I mentioned, interactive signage, personalized messages. Like I was thinking in the future, how great would it be if you're walking down and you say, hey, I just went and talked about the 5 marketing trends and it recognizes Julie was there. Here's another topic that you would really like and it's 5 minutes down the hall. That's great, right? That would be so amazing to be able to have that type of custom personalized messaging throughout an event. So with all of this, sustainability and inclusivity is continuing to be top of mind. Based upon where you're located, North America or Europe, I think North America we might be a little bit behind, have it being top of mind, but that's just because we have different rules and regulations. But we're really seeing meetings and events as a way to drive sustainability and inclusivity. And from a marketing owner perspective, from a marketing stakeholder perspective, it's not just because they have measurable goals, it's because they see this as a way to bring creativity into an event, to do something different, but they also see it as a way to enhance brand values and connect customers and audiences to their brand more and internal audiences to their brand more. I think when we look at it, they're really conscious that this shift gives them new ways and new ideas of how to bring people together. Food and beverage is something that we talk about most, right? I think that is one of the easiest ones to say, okay, are we looking at sustainable cutlery and plates and all of those things? But recently I've heard of clients that during registration, where you usually say, I want a plant-based menu as an opt-in, they're doing meat as an opt-in. They're saying we're going plant-based to start and it's a meat opt-in. And I think one of the great things is there are so many healthy plant-based options, and people, when they're traveling for work, they want to emulate their lifestyle at home. And it's hard when you're on the road. They want more of that plant-based, healthy, sustainable living that they might also have at home. So again, just thinking about how we look at this differently. Removing printed materials, I think this is really, really common. I think for some audiences, it might be a little bit harder, and that's the feedback that we've heard. But even offsite activities, walk or bike, or in San Antonio, you take a boat, right? Like that'd be fun, just looking at different ways to do that. And then more experiential things, I don't know if you guys have seen, but they have these kinetic dance floors that like create energy, which is really fun. Anyone that's been doing all-inclusive in the last 2 years has maybe seen the bikes where you can do the margaritas. That says smoothies, but I've seen the ones where you can do the margaritas, which seem a little bit more fun. But it's just a nice way to think outside the box to do something different. Even in gifting, one of my favorite ones, I think it's called 4Ocean, and they take plastic that they've taken out of the ocean, and they make these actually really beautiful looking bracelets. And it will say how many pounds of plastic it's removed. And it's a great gift even beyond that. The quality is there, but it has a beautiful story behind it. Or you have the welcome amenity cards that you can plant and it becomes a bush or a tree or an herb or something like that. So just fun things that don't change the experience, but actually elevate it. So last but not least is partnerships. And I think this is what underpins a lot of this, and why you guys are at Connect is to learn and to work with your partners and to work with Cvent. But it's really something when we talk with event marketing professionals, this is one that specific group talks about often and most. Because their events are more complex, they know that the collective that needs to come together to execute that takes a lot of different people, takes a lot of different partners that are in that. It's really something that creates more of an impact when it comes to these very highly important events. And it's something that when you look at this, and I mentioned it earlier, is your partners have access to so much. They see so many events in different industry types, in different audience types, and they really, really lean on them to say, what have you seen that works really well? What have you seen that's really engaging? Talk to me about a new destination. Talk to me about how you overcame this. And they're relying on those partners, as they should, to give them that insight, to bring them creativity. So when we look at marketing professionals that are evaluating partners and we're evaluating agencies or hotels or whomever it may be, creativity is number one. Because they're seeing through their lens, right? They want to see what we can offer. They want to see what their hotels can tell them, their agencies can tell them, their DMCs can tell them about how to make this more impactful. The second one was price, which again is not surprising. We have to do more with less. And I think all of these things are great because you don't necessarily need more budget for this to be impactful. The third one threw me off. It was financial strength. And I don't know if out of a list of 10, I would have guessed that one, but the more that I thought about it, the more that it made sense. Post-pandemic, we want financial strength in our partners. We want to know that they're going to be around. That makes sense. And I really had to sit and think about it. Okay, well, why does that matter? Why is that number 3? It's not expertise. It's not destination knowledge. It's financial strength. And then I started thinking, well, because marketing partners want a long-term relationship. They want to build with you. They want to journey with you. They want to sit there and say, hey, you're my partner, and every year we're going to keep working together because you're going to know what that event was and what was successful. You're going to know what that audience liked and what they didn't, and you're going to be able to take that year on year. And we want to know that you're going to be here in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years to grow with us. And that I thought was really, really amazing, because I think that when we look at even our customers that are within the marketing space and doing marketing events, they are true partnerships. And it's really, really incredible because you become an extension of them and an extension of their brand. So while we see that they do tap into internal subject matter experts, marketing communication stakeholders more than any others, more than traditional EAs, more than directors of sales, really do rely on their partnerships to create these dynamic, engaging events. So just a quick recap, and I'm really happy. If there's any one of these that you guys want to hone in on, you want to share examples on, you want me to elaborate on, I am more than happy to. But just as a quick recap, so engagement is at the heart of what we're doing, right? Marketing events have to be engaging for the brand, for internal culture. It's driven through personalized content, which is enabled by technology. Sustainability and inclusivity and strong partnerships are really the foundation for those things and the pluses that make all of that come together. So I'll pause here on this next slide. There is a more full report on this. This was a snapshot. So feel free to scan that, send me an email, connect me with on LinkedIn. I'm happy to send it. We also do have our full global forecast that I'm happy to send to you. But we have about 5-ish minutes left. So if you guys have any questions, if there's anything you guys want to talk about, yeah, let's do it.
On the slide, using AI, that bullet point you called out about theme ideation, that also stood out for me. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so theme ideation, there's been a couple of different approaches to it. Some of the most simplistic ones have been, I have a group of 30 clients, they're coming from all over the US, we want to go to Texas, and we need something that's going to be unique to San Antonio, but also good enough for a C-suite. And they'll say, great, I'm totally going to use this because we did it last night. We have Neon Cowboy, and here's what that looks like. So it's really nice because you can almost take like the demographic of your audience and what your location is, and it can help to create ideas. Or great, with that, tell me what's an activity that we can do that's unique to San Antonio. Tell me some interesting facts about San Antonio. So it helps to kind of dig into that to guide where that might be. And while, the Alamo, I think most of us have probably heard the Alamo. It might say the Alamo, but it might say something else you didn't think of. And so that's what I really love about it, is it kind of helps just to hone that in and get your creativity going as well. Again, it's not going to be the solution. Sometimes it might be, but it also helps to get your brain going of, oh, they do have those boats there. Maybe we could get one with our branding around it. Maybe we could take them to dinner in that. So it's really that sort of ideation or that theming to help craft the rest of the agenda. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What are some of the, from an engagement standpoint, things that you see that have really been effective?
So I think one of the most effective things with engagement is any way that your audience feels heard and considered in content. I think one of the biggest misses is that we get them to register and confirm, we tell them what they're doing, they show up and we tell them what we want to tell them. What we're seeing more often, which I think is really effective, is that user-generated content. And I think that people are going to be engaged when they feel thought of and considered. And if they're saying, hey, Julie, what do you want to learn at Cvent CONNECT? I want to learn what customers are asking about trends. I'm going to be really basic here with these examples. But I'm going to pay attention because I was asked, and I want to know how they're going to integrate that. So I think with engagement, giving them a reason to pay attention, including them in that, and it could be something as simple as, one of my favorite examples actually is, what's your favorite song? Well, why are they asking me my favorite song during registration? Now I want to know, right? When is that going to come up? Is it going to come up during karaoke? Is it going to come up if I win an award and it's a musical staying on stage? So I think the easiest way to integrate that is get feedback from your audience if you can, because then they're going to be paying attention. They're going to try and figure out why that was. And when they see that integrated, that's going to be like, oh, they paid attention. They cared about that. They care that I'm spending my time here and that I'm away from home. So I say that's probably the easiest one. And I think it's not complex, but I do think it's often overlooked. Any other questions? On topic, off topic, if you guys have anything totally unrelated, happy to take a stab at it too.
What's been your favorite part of Cvent CONNECT this year?
Ooh. On a personal note, I did get to see my best friend who lives in New York, and I haven't seen her in a year, so that was really good. No, honestly, it is people coming together. I love to come to these events because it's really valuable for me, and I think for all of us, to hear what people are asking and to hear what is top of mind. When I was at the conference last week, that's where we started talking about multi-generational audiences. And it's like, oh, yes, of course. But it's like, who's coming across that? So it's really the collaboration for me and the information sharing and just hearing what else is going on. We're a remote company, so I don't go to an office. I have an office in my home. So I think I'm a little starved for that interaction and collaboration.